Should you pay off your mortgage? In this episode, we're going to talk about why I chose to pay off the mortgage on my primary home. This is Chris, and welcome to Heavy Metal Money. Hi, welcome back. Should you pay off your mortgage? This question has been around for quite some time. This is an ongoing debate of people whether or not they should pay off their home loan or their mortgage versus taking that money and investing it for higher returns over the course of the next 15 or 20 years. Now, one can argue, why would you pay off a loan where your interest rate is 3%, 3.5%, even 4%, knowing that you could take that money, put it in long-term investment vehicles, and earn a return of 7, 8, or 9% over the course of the next 20 years, let's say. Now, there are many blog posts that talk about the pros and cons of paying off your mortgage early. And, there are so many out there, I really couldn't even decide which ones to reference here. So I'm going to share my experience and kind of my thought process of going through paying off my mortgage early. And so, I really haven't been a true Dave Ramsey follower. I don't really, follow one philosophy in particular. But I do feel as though that you can capture all this knowledge from all these different people and use the data to kind of develop your own thoughts and your own plan for moving forward. And that's what's so awesome about personal finance is it really is personal. It's different for everybody, right? Everyone has different goals, different wants and needs, and different things that they value, different things that you want to splurge on. And so personal finance is just that, really personal. So before we get going here, just, try not to judge or criticize others when they make those decisions on whether or not they choose to pay off their loan early or not. Because I got a lot of heated arguments when people did find out I did pay off my mortgage. I had some people say, why in the F would you do that? I mean, truly, I had people ask me that. And so let's just run down my thought process. First of all, debt, right? When it comes to debt, it can drive us nuts, right? It plays with our brain, man. It plays with our mind. And I feel as though that if you have a car payment, you have a credit card payment, you have a student loan payment, right? On top of a mortgage payment, it can kind of beat you down, right? I mean, sometimes all these payments and these debts can make you feel depressed, make you feel defeated, and sometimes hopeless, right? And there's a huge connection between finance and mental health. And I learned a lot. I listened to a podcast back in the day from The Fairer Sense, right? The Fairer Sense podcast. We'll have a link in the show notes below. And where they talked about mental health and how it's impacted by money and how we let money dictate how we take care of our mental health. So for me, it's psychological. It's freeing. It changes so many things. It changes the way we think. It changes the way we feel. And it changes the way that we get up in the morning, right? Get up every day. So personally, I chose to not have any debt if I can help it. So one of the main reasons I decided to pay off my home mortgage early, it was completely psychological. It was freeing. And so it actually changes not only the way I feel and the way you think, but also the way that you care for your home. Your home, it's not owned by the bank anymore. It's owned by you. And this is everything. I mean, it sounds silly, but we're talking about the frame, the walls, the floor, the lot, the lawn, everything. It's mine. And it takes a different kind of pride and ownership and to maintain your property. Now, keep in mind, I still have to pay taxes and I still have to pay insurance to live here. I still have all of my utilities that I have to pay to live here. But the thing is, paying off debt allows you to do some amazing things. It really does. So once you no longer have that major living expense, right, like your mortgage payment, you can funnel all of that money into doing all these other things. You can pay down other debt extremely fast. In my case, I crushed my auto loan. I took my auto loan, my 5-year auto loan, and I crushed that in under a year, right? Totally just destroyed that debt. And then once I had the auto loan paid off, then I spent the next year building an emergency fund. I was able to build that emergency fund of about 5 to 6 months expenses in about a year, right? So I was able to do these things extremely fast because now I didn't have that mortgage payment. After I had my auto loan paid off and my emergency fund funded, then I could now increase my retirement account contributions. And that was well up to over 15% now, and even higher now. Now, I paid off my mortgage because it allowed me to accelerate in so many different areas. And it allows you to everything from, paying for an upcoming vacation. I actually went on my very first cruise I've ever went on, and I was able to do that paid in full, in cash, with no debt, because I had done these things prior, right? Paying off my mortgage allowed me to pay off my auto loan and fully fund emergency fund in case there was something catastrophic were to happen. I could still live here in this home and pay all of my necessary living expenses for the next 5 to 6 months, right? And there's something absolutely freeing about that. So let's talk a little bit about how I did this. And there really wasn't any special sauce or any magic recipe. And I'll just run through kind of my thought process and what I did to make this happen. It was actually kind of a series of events that it took to get there. And it all starts with my dad. My dad, one of the coolest guys that I ever had the privilege of knowing, and I was super lucky to be his son. And while he was still working, I recall him mentioning several times on how he was accelerating the payoff of his own home mortgage. He had said to me on a couple different occasions, I'm doubling and tripling my mortgage payments. It wasn't until my father was diagnosed with an advanced stage pancreatic cancer that this really clicked for me. Because now when my dad got sick, he went through radiation and chemo and he couldn't work, right? He couldn't do it. And so having his home paid for with no mortgage, it lessened any burden that he had to go through while going through his treatment. It helped that he now had money to help pay for the ongoing care that he needed, and it kept him comfortable all the way up until he had passed. So that's when it really clicked for me on what kind of freedom being debt-free can bring. And so if we fast forward a little bit, following my father's passing, I now had his home to sell, right? So I had to sell that home. And yeah, it was difficult. This was my childhood home, tons of memories, my first girlfriend, band practice, sneaking out with friends, totally full of fun times, right? And you may recall I have another post on heavymetal.money that for many years, I had already been accelerating my mortgage pay down by paying my mortgage every 2 weeks. So I had made a substantial dent in my mortgage prior to me refinancing, now that I was single and recently divorced. So after selling my childhood home, I used the funds from selling my dad's home and using my own savings to then satisfy the outstanding debt and that balance of my first mortgage, the mortgage on my home. Now, I had thought long and hard over what would be best to do with the proceeds from selling my dad's house, right? Should I place that money in the stock market? Should I buy mutual funds? What other investment vehicles are there? And to this day, I really do honestly feel that my dad would have wanted me to do this. I absolutely could not have done this or continue to do what I'm doing without the help from my dad. I'm grateful every day for him helping me understand what it means to work hard, to save, invest, and to be debt-free. There absolutely is freedom that comes from that. How about you? Do you think you should pay off your mortgage? Do you think you should live debt-free to put money in all these other things? We want to hear from you. Put your comments down below. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you next time on Heavy Metal Money.